to the point where it's almost hard to remember what life was like without cell phones, computers, and the internet. In just 20 years or so, these things have dramatically changed the way we live, and more life-changing technology is quickly on the way. Here to tell us what to expect in the next 5 years is Dr. Bernie Meyerson, IBM's Vice President of Innovation and an IBM Fellow. Good morning, Dr. Meyerson.
Good morning.
What do we got coming down the pike here? Mind blowers?
Oh, serious mind blowers. For the last 20, 30 years, things have gotten a little better. We have about 20 million times more capacity on our cell phone than got us to the moon on Apollo.
Wow.
I mean, things have gone a long way. The problem is, you got there by making it smaller, faster, better, cheaper. Imagine what happens, though, when you make it so small, you get down to atoms. Believe it or not, in the next 5 years we're there. Literally, the transistors that you make things out of are becoming atomic scale, at which point they stop working, which means you don't get faster, smaller, better, cheaper that way. You have to come up with a new idea.
So what's the new idea?
Entirely new ways of computing, something we call cognitive computing, where if you think about it, we played Jeopardy with Watson and we won handily. It was a little unfair because a human being has 20 watts of energy going on in their head. We had 80,000 behind the screen. So clearly there's a huge amount of efficiency to be had if a human was reasonably competitive with 20 watts versus 80,000. But that's a whole new type of architecture for computers, totally different.
And that architecture, I'm told, it's going to have touch involved in that. All of a sudden, through something like this, you are going to be able to feel whatever it is you're looking at.
Precisely. The challenge is, when you have what we call cognitive computing, you work like a human. How does a human work? You sense your environment. You pick up a coffee cup. So yes, there will actually be the capability to mimic feel. So if you're out on the web, you can literally feel a fabric you're going to purchase.
So we have computers becoming sort of more sensory in the application. Touch, scent,
smell. Think about, smell is not just that your morning coffee is great. Smell is, imagine for a minute, you sneeze. Well, there's all sorts of chemicals there. What if one of the things you could detect was, let's say, staph infection? Well, literally, you sneeze and your cell phone says, oh, by the way, you really want to hit the doctor because 2 days from now, you are going to be unbelievably sick.
You are going to die. No, hopefully it won't go that far. Taste, also one of the things you could do.
Absolutely. Essentially, you're familiar with things like Pandora, thumbs up, thumbs down for music. Well, imagine having the capability when you're having dinner. You just literally have your device sensor sitting there, and it smells what you smell, and you give thumbs up, thumbs down for a year. It will learn enough about the chemistry of what it is in the food you like to actually suggest to you things you'd never think of. Fried grasshoppers, you know.
You're really
never know.
running down the 5 senses here. Let's keep moving along. Hearing?
Hearing. So imagine for a minute that literally everybody's phone could just hear every imaginable sound. We're talking way up into the stratosphere where you can't, all the way down to bass. And imagine you start tracking those sounds in a place prone to, let's say, earthquakes. There's always been an understanding that animals somehow magically sense before an earthquake occurs. What if you could actually detect that rumbling and by collecting all this data from people, predict 20, 30 minutes ahead of time there was going to be a natural disaster and prepare for it? It would be game-changing.
And finally, you say a pixel will be worth 1,000 words. This is incredible stuff. Thanks so much for joining us, Doctor. We appreciate it. Dr. Bernie Meyerson, thank you.
My pleasure.
And we're back with Dr. Bernie Meyerson. I wanted to ask you, where you say a pixel will be worth 1,000 words, what do you mean by that?
Normally, a picture is just a bunch of digits that you stream into a digital camera. Imagine it could truly understand what we call context. In other words, it could see an image of all of us talking. And the computer would not just see the image, but it would understand it's an interview. That level of understanding is not there today. But it would make it so incredibly easy to take the vast amount of data, about 80% of it in the world is pictures, and actually be able to say, I want to find the image of you being interviewed. Like that, it pulls it up. That would be incredible. And that's why you don't have to go through this long explanation of what you're looking for. You just give it a rough description, and it understands the image it's seeing, not just the individual elements of it.
So it used to be sort of looking at this Jetsons world where you would talk about 20 years out. We're talking about 3, 4, 5 years now to see these rather dramatic changes.
If you think about what was done with Jeopardy, initially that was just a game, right? Question and answer. Today, we're working with oncologists at Memorial Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson. This is a game changer because it is the early form of cognitive computing, and it understands, really understands the data. It can read unimaginable amounts of data. No human could do it. And then it could spot what we call the orphan disease which you would have no chance of having read about it. 10 people in the world have this disease. If the doctor says, look, I have these bizarre symptoms, you know, the left ear is the size of a grapefruit and the right elbow is shrunk. And it'll say, yeah, there's about 7 people in the world who've had that. Here's the disease. Here's how you check. Imagine having something with infinite memory that could do it like this, just in a Q&A form. That is a different world, and that will be here within those 5 years or less.
Incredible stuff.
Dr. Brian Myerson, thanks.
My pleasure.